It's been an exciting week with Bethesda announcing a number of things including new features and DLC, but still no real news as to when we're going to get the GECK. But the lack of official modding tools hasn't stopped us yet, so let's take a look at what the modding community have for us this week in the Fallout Mod Vault. Fallout 4 gives you a lot of options when it comes to sights, but there are three main types. The first one, of course, is the iron sights. You also have reflex sights, and then of course there are sniper scopes which zoom in even further. This is the short scope and this does 4 times zoom. Obviously the larger scopes zoom in further. Of course, with the sniper scopes you do get a couple of disadvantages. The first being you lose your peripheral vision, which can be a little dangerous. The second is the vision actually fades in. Now you can actually shoot before you've finished fading in, but of course it makes correcting your aim a little more difficult. But there is a mod called See-Through Scopes that actually mitigates those problems by adding a couple of new scopes called Combat Scopes, and it allows you to zoom in the same amount 4 times, but as you can see you still have full peripheral vision. In many ways it behaves far more like the reflex scope, except you get a lot better zoom. Now it's not without its drawbacks. You do keep peripheral vision, but you'll notice that you can't see through the scope, so the area around your target you have less vision. And you have no option to hold your breath, so you will notice a slight wobble in the scope. This is going to make those long distance headshots a little more difficult. You're going to have to correct for the sway. For your hardcore stealthy snipers that like to line up those perfect shots from a far distance, you're probably going to want to stick with your long sniper scopes. But if you're sort of into mixing it up a little bit, perhaps getting a few quick shots off, but you also want to be able to make a little further distance shots than you can with a reflex sight, this is a good option. And that's exactly how I see this mod. It gives you some more options. You craft and attach these things the exact same way as you do with all the other scopes. You've just got 2 new scopes, the Combat Scope 2.5 and the Combat Scope 4 times. The 2.5 is a little more powerful zoom than the reflex sight, but not much. The Combat Scope seems to be the same zoom as the short scope. And you can attach these sights to a variety of weapons, a lot of different weapons actually. You can check the website to see which ones you can make. But one of my favourite was actually for the hunting rifle. I'm a big fan of the hunting rifle. In fact, I have a 50 cal version of it. But with the combat sight, it becomes a very good mid to short range weapon as well as a long range weapon. Honestly, for my playstyle, I actually think this sight on this weapon is probably the best thing. I might keep one weapon with a proper sniper scope so I can hold my breath and take those really good shots. But for general combat, mid to long range, I actually think this sight is perfect. It's got more zoom than the reflex sight, so I really can get those mid shots on the head, but I still feel like I've got a lot of peripheral awareness. One very important thing to note is that because it behaves more like a reflex sight, if you play third person, it really doesn't do a damned thing. It's not like the sniper scope where you can play third person and then when you zoom in it goes full first person. It's going to be third person the whole time. It might actually be nice if a mod like this allowed you to play third person like so, but as soon as you aim it actually went first person so that it kind of looked like this. I'm not sure how hard that would be, and perhaps that just belongs in another mod actually. That could be something people might want to look into. Obviously a mod like this is going to appeal to certain people. It is going to depend on your playstyle. This definitely appeals to me. It's the sort of mod I will use. I really do like the hunting rifle with this scope on it. I love the implementation, I love the idea, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on this mod to see what else he adds. The Combat Power Armor mod by Tumbajamba is actually a mod that quite a few people requested I cover, and I'm glad I did. Not only does this combat armor look really good, it also has something that grabbed my attention, and that something are these extra pieces on the bodywork. These pieces that only appear when you upgrade the armor. For example, there is a knife that increases your melee and bashing by 10%, there are pouches that increase your carry weight, and the Stealth Boy enhancement, which is pretty standard for most powered armor, also adds an object that you can see on the armor. And if you can't make up your mind as to what you want, if you've actually built the knife, the Stealth Boy, the pouches beforehand, you can actually create a mix mod for including knife, pouches and Stealth Boy, so you get the best of all of those mods, and they do appear on the armor. And I love this idea. In fact, I'm hoping this is the sort of thing that will eventually get expanded to the vanilla armors, probably via a mod. I love the idea of being able to see the mods on the armor. Now, of course, you can already see the jetpack, but for example, the Tesla coils, I was very disappointed to find out the Tesla coils didn't have anything visible on the armor. The flashlight for this powered armor is also slightly different. It is a mix flashlight. It has the flashlights on the side of the helmets, on both sides actually, plus it also has glowing eyes, and it looks very cool, especially at night. But in most respects it acts just like standard powered armor. You can mix and match with other pieces of powered armor, you can recolor it, you can add paint to it. I especially liked the military paint. It looks very dark and forbidding, but it just behaves the same way the rest of the power armor behaves. The only minor complaint I have is that the textures in certain areas, especially the shoulders, do seem a little low res. It looks like they are textures that have been stretched somewhat, so perhaps this is an object that has been scaled up, and the texture looks a little low res when compared to, say, the helmet or the wrist pieces. So I think I'd like to see a bit of an improvement there, but apart from that, this is a phenomenally good looking set of armor, and as I said, I love the fact that these mods show up on the armor. It's a really nice feature. A couple of weeks ago I covered a mod called the NCR Veteran Ranger Combat Armor mod, which brings that iconic armor from Fallout New Vegas to Fallout 4. And if you want to go and see the review for that one, I will leave a link down below. You can go and watch that. But there is now a mod that adds a retexture for that mod and changes it into the Desert Ranger armor. I'm a big fan of this armor in Fallout New Vegas. I think it looks great. It has a slightly greener and dustier look than the other armor. It looks like it's military green that has seen a lot of wear and still has a lot of dust embedded in it. Functionally, it is identical to the Veteran Ranger armor, and in fact it requires that mod to be installed because it is just a retexture. It goes over the top of that other mod. You have almost certainly noticed that the eyes are not clear like they were in the other mod, and are in fact glowing bright green. This is visible from quite far away, especially at night. I don't know if the mod author is planning to make a duller glow version. However, if you're looking to recapture that Desert Ranger experience, this is a mod you definitely need to check out. Sticking with the theme of green, this is the Rhino, or specifically the green version of the Rhino. The default is actually red. You can choose which colour you want, but it pretty much is the same weapon. This is a powerful revolver. It holds 3 rounds and it has a hell of a kick. It does a hell of a lot of damage. It does twice the damage of the 44 pistol I've got here. Now, I don't have any perks whatsoever in pistol, but of course the perks should affect both weapons equally. Now at the moment you can't change the Rhino's receiver. It is just the Rhino receiver, so there's no way to modify it to make it stronger, whereas of course with the 44 I could upgrade to the advanced receiver and do 84 damage. That is still below the damage that the Rhino is doing, but obviously that has to be taken into account. I would actually like to see the Rhino get a few improvements in that area. Whilst the Rhino does have the edge for range over the 44, the accuracy and fire rate go to the 44, so in the end, once you've got gun nut rank 4, the 44 starts becoming a more advanced weapon, or at least a more powerful weapon. The Rhino does, however, allow you to change the sights, and it has some very, very cool looking sights. Glow sights, reflex sights, medium scopes, and a long night vision scope. It looks pretty damned cool. Even without any mods for the receiver, this is still a very, very powerful handgun. It is the sort of weapon where you are going to need to make each shot count because it takes quite a while between shots. This is as fast as you can shoot, but you are very accurate at long range. You can put a scope on it and hit things from quite far away, and let's face it, it's a very unique and cool looking gun. It's all over. And now for something completely different. A mod for people who like to twiddle with their options. And no, that is not some rude innuendo. I'm talking about the options in your menu. In this particular case, the audio menu. With a mod called Adjustable UI Volume Sliders, you get a lot more options as to the volume of sounds in game. Do you find the sound of that a little too loud? Well, lower the volume a little, and there you go, nice and quiet. And of course, it also works for the sounds inside VATs, and you can actually change it actually whilst in VATs if you want to test the different volumes to find the right one for you. I will actually put the VAT sound right back up so you can actually hear the difference. There you go. You can change the sound of the workbenches. We'll go along UI Workshop. Complete silence. Perhaps you want something halfway between. And you can even reduce the volume of the sounds in the perk chart. There you go. A lot quieter. But it doesn't reduce the sounds of the standard menu. Now for some of these things there are already mods that will completely remove the sounds, but with this one single mod you can either remove or, quieten just about every UI sound out there. This is one of those mods that isn't really essential for me, but it's options, and who doesn't love options? Have you been using the scavenging stations as a way to keep your settlers occupied and happy, as well as bring in some new resources? Well, you might want to take a look at a mod called Northland Diggers Crafting Resources and Jobs, which gives you a lot more options that are, well, very similar to the scavenging station. For example, the Concrete Smasher, that when you assign a worker to it, will actually gather concrete, a very, very useful resource. You have a bench for heavy metal, one for the lumberjack who's going to gather wood, something that I've actually found is a lot harder to gather than some of the other materials you might have suspected. Nuclear waste, this is a very valuable one. And shiny copper. Each bench is slightly different to the next, and they all have a kind of teddy bear theme. And each bench has its own animation, which helps give that feeling that your settlers are all busy doing different tasks. And believe it or not, whilst making this video, the mod has been updated and he's added a few new stations. He's added a botanist station which will bring in flora components, a butcher's table that will bring in food, bone and leather, an undertaker that will apparently bring in happiness, which I suppose makes sense, and even a tax collector. I can imagine this particular settler not being popular. But what makes this really exciting is that there are going to be future updates. There's already another version planned with post office, ammunition station, perhaps even a bar and some other things. And there are some requests and ideas on the front page that include nurse, doctor's office, bar singer and more. This mod looks like it's just going to continue to grow and continue to add interesting things for you to set your settlers to do. I think this mod is just a really good idea, it's really well done, and from the looks of things it's just going to keep on getting better. It does make the settlements feel a little busier, a lot more interesting, and this for me is going to be one of those to keep my eyes on. And that is about it for this video. I will of course be ending with some screenshots that you guys have submitted to the page I set up, and I have to say I'm absolutely amazed. There are well over 800 images now, and you guys do a better job at making Fallout 4 look good than Bethesda did themselves. If you are interested in posting some of your work, I will leave a link down below showing you how to do it. Just watch the video and follow the steps. I will of course be back next week with more great mods to show you, and I would love it if you could join me for that. I look forward to seeing you there, and until then, remember as always, have fun. If you're curious as to whether I've covered a mod in one of my videos, feel free to go along to my website gophersvids.com and check the search functionality out. Just type the name of the mod you're interested in, open up the settings and filter by mods only. Click for search and you will see whether or not I've covered that mod. Click on the mod and it will also show you any of the videos this mod appears in.